on, you boys and green. Come on, you boys. Come on, you boys and green. Come on, you boys and green. Come on, you boys. Come on, you boys. Come on, you boys and green. Come on, you boys and green. Come on, you boys and green.
Hello, welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. We are here with the watch along. It's Southampton against Liverpool in the Premier League. I'm joined by Paul Tierney. Paul, how are you keeping? Are you looking forward to this one?
Hey Paul, how's it going? Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, it's a big game for both teams, really, especially Liverpool because they've dropped points over the Christmas, so they want to be getting going again. Particularly with Man United coming up now in a few weeks and the cup games this weekend.
Yeah, especially the table just seems to be going up and down. Everybody's beating everybody at the moment, so you just don't know. Yourself, obviously being an Arsenal fan, you know that especially. But interesting enough, Queevy and Geller on the bench for Liverpool. I am looking up here because I have the game on up here just above the camera, so I am watching up there. So excuse me if you think I'm not listening or not tuning in. And then you have Shane Long and Will Smallbone are on the bench for Southampton.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying the Irish lads, it's tough for them to get in at the minute at Southampton because they're playing so well. Obviously, Long did get a game against Fulham on Stephen's Day. But again, that's just probably to keep the squad fresh with 3 games so close together. So, yeah, it's tough for them to get in at the minute, but they're a good Southampton side and they'll get their chance eventually.
Yeah, well, obviously, you would have seen yesterday that Obafemi's linked. He's linked with Swansea and Stoke. Would you like to see him go to either of those?
Yeah, I think it'd be a good move for them because they're both doing well this season, particularly Swansea, who've had a great season, are up in the playoff spots at the minute. And I mean, Stoke have Michael O'Neill there as well, so he'll definitely get an opportunity, which is what Michael O'Neill is known for, is giving lads opportunities. And he's brought Stoke back from being potential relegation candidates in that league to going for promotion in the playoffs. So I think they'd both be decent loan moves from, because I don't think he's going to get into the Southampton side enough to feature for Ireland in the near future.
Yeah, well, lots of people saying that he has a bad attitude and stuff like that. I feel as though a move to another club on loan could kind of make him grow up a little bit, which I think isn't a bad idea because, like, having met him, it was probably the last time I left Ireland was being over doing an interview with him last March. And
Goal 1-0 Liverpool. Or 1-0 Southampton, Danny Ings.
Oh,
it's a lovely finish.
I'm on Sky Go, so I'm a little bit behind here. So I'm at the part where Ward-Prowse is crossing it into Ings and scores a lovely goal.
Yeah, it's great finish. Yeah, I mean, and that's it. That's a great start for Southampton. Liverpool looking dodgy at the back again. But yeah, great start. And Danny Ings gets 7 goals this season against his old team as well.
Yeah, obviously he enjoyed that one. You can see by the celebrations there, he's just laughing away. But Liverpool will be right up for this now as soon as they kick off again. So I wouldn't. Sometimes it can be a bit of a bad thing. You can kind of awoken the giant a little bit, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Like, always reminds me of when Shane Duffy got the early goal against Denmark, and we were all dreaming of Russia, and then we ended up being flattened, which we don't need to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
No, I just remember celebrating in the pub, the whole place going mad, and then Ericsson happened.
Sean O'Donovan is a regular in the comments, and he says, "Happy days, big man." Shane Duffy was on a bit of a wild one last night in the comments of the top 5 players who may feature in March. I hope you're keeping well, big man Shane Duffy. It's not actually Shane Duffy, but it's obviously someone who idolises him. Another player who could be on the move, Paul, is Jason Knight, and there's obviously 3 clubs interested in him and really showing that they actually want him. And that's West Ham, Burnley and Crystal Palace. So if you were to choose one of those clubs for Knight to go to, who would you choose?
I think it's a good move at all of them. I think the best chance he's going to get in would be Burnley or Crystal Palace. He'd definitely get a starting position at both of them because they generally change around their midfields a lot, Palace and Burnley. And I think he'd suit Burnley a lot. I think West Ham are playing very well at the minute. They've had a decent season for West Ham, Moyes has them playing well, and
Good
they've got
manager,
results
Moyes.
recently. Yeah, oh no, he is. He's a very good manager. He's like, I mean, obviously he had a dodgy few years after United, and I mean, going to Man United is never easy, especially when you're following in Fergie's footsteps. So it's nothing against him, but yeah, I think maybe Palace or Burnley would be a better move, or even stay at Derby and keep going how you are. Like Derby's form has improved a lot since Wayne Rooney's taken over the first team. So I mean, there's no harm in staying, but a move to the Premier League would be good for him too because he's well capable, as he's proven.
I think the only thing was, if he does move to a Premier League club, is that he could actually then go up his level for Ireland, which could be interesting. But then again, you're kind of looking at the other, head of the snake. He could also not play. So does he stay where he is and continue his development? And as you say, he's doing really well for him. Seems to be a very big player in the Championship for the, for Derby. They'll obviously not want to let him go. Rooney's come out and said how much he really likes him. So I don't think, unless it's a massive, 20 million or something like that, I couldn't see them really letting him go. I don't think Derby are stuck for money either.
No, I don't think so. And obviously he's probably been one of their best players, if not their best player so far this season, in a tough year for them. I think, I mean, it'd be tough for him to get into like West Ham, as I mentioned, but Burnley and Palace are always chopping and changing. Like you look at the players that are playing in midfield already, he's no worse than them. So it would be a decent move for him. But again, obviously money will come into it, and Derby obviously won't want to let one of their star players go, particularly when they're so close to the relegation zone as well, and want to keep going onwards and upwards how they have been the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, I think, if he does go to either of those clubs, they don't really play, I think, to his strengths. If he, maybe West Ham, but you look at the players that they have there. I don't think he'd get in ahead of the players at the moment. Obviously, in the longer run, if he keeps developing the way he's developing, he could be a top level Premier League player. But I just Crystal Palace, a lot of the time they're just sitting in a low block. He's not really going to get the best out of him. I know they've good creative players like Zaha and Eze and Townsend and Benteke, but the midfielders don't really get a chance to express themselves. MacArthur and McCarthy, they don't really do a whole lot other than sit in, and obviously make tackles and stuff like that. I don't think he'll be really allowed to express himself. They've got those players already that can express themselves. I know Jason can play kind of on the right as well as in midfield, but then you've got Eze, Zaha, as I mentioned, and Townsend. So is he going to get in ahead of them? I don't think so. Obviously, Eze's come in from QPR, the Championship, so he's at the same level as Knight last year. But he looks like a real good player. So unless he was going to be brought in as maybe a wide player, which it's not really his natural position. So I would actually prefer if he probably stayed at Derby, unless he was guaranteed to go to a club and get game time. I feel as though even if he did go to a Premier League club, he would get game time, but it had to be the right fit. Burnley, for me, you look at them, Jeff Hendrick was playing there. He got shipped out to the right because they wanted to play other players in the midfield, in the centre of midfield. So, yeah, I'd probably like to see him stay at Derby because it's a club that suits him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just he only came into the team kind of halfway through last season, didn't he? As well, Derby, or was he playing throughout? I think it was kind of halfway through.
As the season went on. Yeah, I think a lot of players got into their first team squads once the Toulon tournament happened, and then after that, a lot of them started kind of getting minutes, and then it became more minutes, and then it became regular. Same with Darragh O'Shea, kind of as well. Second half of the season, really, kind of from November onwards.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, listen, it's probably his first full season in a starting 11 team. So I mean, maybe it would be good for him to stay on, keep going with Derby, and then maybe next summer, like you've mentioned, head off and see if you can get a move up to the Premier League at one of the clubs that you've mentioned. But obviously, January is a time when teams are trying to, like, say, teams that maybe are closer to the bottom are trying to get players in to get themselves going again. And as you said, Burnley and Palace are two of them. Palace are a very inconsistent side. You don't know what to make of them. Like, Hodgson's the manager. He has one way of playing, and that's it, as you've mentioned already. And then Burnley, we know Burnley, they're a solid outfit. Would it suit him, like you've mentioned? But again, I mean, maybe Derby is the right option. But I mean, I wouldn't rule it out in January anyway. It would be a decent move for him.
I'd actually like to see him go to Everton. I think he could be a replacement for Gylfi Sigurdsson. I'd love to see him there. And obviously, when Everton are favourites against teams, he could be that attacking player for them. But it's whether he would get in it now at the moment would be my concern. I don't see him getting in now, so that would be my biggest concern. Just a couple of comments there. Axel Fox says, "Hey lads, hey Axel, hope you're keeping well." Gavin says Werner is just a German Shane Long. I'll come back to you on that one in a sec, Paul. And then Ush Bosch is giving waving emojis. How are you, Ush? Keep on DJing there. I hope you're keeping well. So just back to that Gavin's comment there. Werner is just a German Shane Long. What do you think of that one?
I think it's too early to be judging him. I know they've paid a lot of money for him and he's only come in. But they're completely different players, Werner and Shane Long. I think once Werner gets a couple of goals, he'll start banging them in. It's just, obviously, it's a new league for him. He's still a young player as well. But he's already proved it in another top league. You don't just have to prove it in the Premier League to prove you're a good player. So I think it'll take time, but he will start getting goals eventually because he's done it already in another top league. But Shane Long, I mean, comparing him to Shane Long, they're different players, you know?
Yeah, I think he's just having a bit of a laugh anyway. There's a couple of people coming in with some other comments as well. Wouldn't mind having him in the Irish team all the same. Darragh Brennan says, what are your thoughts on Shane Duffy with this season? I imagine he means with Celtic. I'll let you go first, Paul, if you like, and then I'll give my thoughts on it so far.
Well, obviously, Duffy has had a tough year as well with the death of his father too, and maybe that's affecting him. So, I just think Celtic in general just haven't been good enough. I think Rangers have just steamrolled that league, and they deserve to be that far ahead. Celtic have dropped points all over the place, not just against Rangers. So I mean, he's had a tough season, but there's sorry, something happened there. Never mind.
Salah with some great play on the edge of the box there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's been a tough season for Celtic in general. I wouldn't just go in on Duffy saying he's had a poor season, but he was having a poor time at Brighton before that as well. The form's just low at the minute, and once he gets his head going again, I'm sure the form will improve. It's been a tough season for Celtic all round, so, I couldn't really just pick on Duffy,
Well, I think there's a number of factors. One, there's no fans. I think he would thrive more under fans. And because of that, the fans that are normally at a game would be, if they had something to say, they'd be saying it at the match. Now they don't. They have only one place to say it, and it's online. So there's a lot more abuse, I think, being, given out online more than normal. So I think that's a factor. I think the coronavirus is obviously a factor as well. And he's had a bit of a mad year. Obviously, you've mentioned, the passing of his dad and stuff like that. And that's, from losing my dad, I know it's definitely a factor. I've never played at the level Duffy's played at, but as a human being, he used to ring his dad after every game and stuff like that. I was listening to a podcast last night, Keith Fahey. He explained about how he was depressed and stuff like that, and after his dad died, a week after his Premier League debut and stuff like that, and he was lost without him. He went to go and ring him after games, and obviously he wasn't able to because he wasn't with us anymore. So yeah, I think there's that. I also think it's the fact that Celtic don't play to his strengths. They're going in against teams where he's expected to play and win every game, which is not normally in a team that's normally doing that. I think he's at his best when he's just told to sit on the 18-yard box and defend. We've seen him so many times for Ireland doing that, and that's when we've seen him at his absolute best. Putting his body on the line, blocking shots, winning headers, and then obviously when we nick a set piece, he goes up the other end, and more often than not, he's a threat, and more often than not, he probably scores for us. I mean, he's probably got a better goal scoring record than the majority of our starting 11 for Ireland, I would say. If you look around the team, he's probably got more goals than, I'd say, Shane Long's probably only ahead of him, because we don't have a lot
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you've made some good points there. It's he's had a tough last couple of months, and I mean, he can only get himself back going again, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. And it's been tough with Ireland as well, and that's obviously affecting him too, I mean, obviously there's no fans there as well, and obviously he loves going away with Ireland. So I mean, there's a lot of factors we could mention, as you've mentioned already. So you don't really know, but I think he's been unlucky, to be honest.
Yeah, it will be interesting at the end of the season if he'll go anywhere. I don't see him being recalled from his loans, but I think that's nonsense.
Mm.
But it will be interesting to see, will he stay in the Premier League or will he go to the Championship? This is a real defining kind of year for him, because I think he turned 29 there on New Year's Day. So he's kind of at that edge now, where does he stay in the Prem or does he go down to the Championship and settle for a Championship club? Because I don't think Celtic will make the transfer permanent. I don't think they can afford him. I don't think they can afford the wages. So, look, I think he was right to make the loan move to Celtic. Obviously, it's his boyhood club. It's a club he wanted to go to and see how he get on. So you can't really blame the lad for going to the club he loves and getting an opportunity to get paid to play for a club that you love. Now, obviously, it's not going really well, even though they've won a cup there a couple of weeks ago. The big thing is Celtic winning the 10 in a row, and it looks like that's gone after the defeat there at the weekend. So that's the big thing. The fans wanted that, to have that over Rangers till the test of time, and it's gone now. Well, it seems mathematically it's not, but it seems like it is. So yeah, even though he's won a couple of things, it'll probably go down as a bit of a failure if things keep going the way they are at the moment. Hopefully something might change and Celtic might go on a really good run and he scores a few goals, and then you never know what will happen then come the end of the season. So just he was talking about Werner there, I think Sean is.
Yeah, good point.
Nate, so that's Nate Warnock saying that. He says Celtic have made their own downfall by not taking the gradual and now evident threat of Rangers. With that being said, I hope Duffy can turn his form around so he leaves Brighton. He's obviously a Crystal Palace fan, so he taking the threat seriously, I think he meant to say, of Rangers. I think that's what he was saying, not the evident threat. So yeah, I think he's right. I think Celtic should have maybe invested a little bit more going into this season, and yeah, I think they need to change their manager anyway. I don't think it's working under Lennon. I think a lot of Celtic fans come out and said it. He should have left, and he's kind of ruined his legacy a little bit. That's the general consensus among the fans. So, yeah, if he did leave over in January now, Celtic still need to get players in. So that's the issue that they have, and can they keep hold of Edward and stuff like that? Because if things keep going the way they are, at the end of the season, he'll probably be out of there.
Yeah, definitely, and it's been tough for Lennon, all right. I mean, it reminds me of Wenger not towards the end, but like when fans were calling for him to go out, but they're calling him to go out for years. Never mind, Lennon was a couple of weeks, couple of months, So yeah, they've got a point, but again, I think Celtic, I mean, as you mentioned, not winning the 10 in a row will be the killer for them. But look, they'll just have to go again. Obviously, they're going to try sign a few players in January now to try and change what's going on. I assume they will anyway. And then the summer go again. I don't think Lennon will be there in the summer regardless. So go again next year. That's all you can say. Or this year.
I think they were really let down by obviously Forster. Now he's playing in goal for Southampton tonight. They wanted to sign him, but they could only sign him on loan again. So that's probably, you look at the game against Rangers in the Cup last year, and Forster made some unbelievable saves. I don't know how Morelos didn't score against Celtic, and he was just an absolute mountain. And they tried to sign him, they couldn't get him on a permanent, so he just said, I'm not coming back. So I think that was a big blow for Celtic, because obviously he'd been there previously under Lennon and stuff like that, and he was class for them. Like, I think he's a class keeper. I don't understand why he's not always number one, although McCarthy has been good for Southampton as well.
Yeah, I look at Southampton, they're always chopping and changing the side. All Liverpool are in. Salah, good save by Forster, just as we were talking about him. Salah was trying to go around him and he made a good save there. I was offside anyway, never mind. Right, that's the point gone.
He's a good keeper anyway, though,
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Like, ever since his first time at Celtic, he was a very good keeper. And
now it was a good save.
Yeah, like he's a very good keeper, and I'm surprised he doesn't play, as you said, more. But I think with Hasenhüttl, it's just the way he is. He changes that team all the time, and you mentioned McCarthy as well. He's been very good for them. So, I mean, it's just the way it is. And you mentioned Celtic not being able to sign him permanently. It's only a loan move again. the wages are a killer, and that's just football now, isn't it? With the Premier League, everything is so inflated, and with coronavirus and stuff, some clubs just don't have the money.
Speaking of money and going for zero fee, Jack Byrne obviously moved to Apoel today. I was getting a lot of stick online on Twitter because I put up a tweet after Jack Byrne had actually signed, but I didn't see what number he was, and I'd been told by his agent then what number he was going to be. So I put up saying, I was just told that Jack Byrne's got to be number 29, and on Irish Football Fan TV, someone had already retweeted the fact, and it's him there standing there announcing it with number 29 on the back. And I'd put up a link saying you could buy the jersey here, blah blah blah, and a couple of people made me look like an absolute idiot now because of it. But there you go, the life of Twitter for you. But Jack signed; he's number 29, if you didn't know. And yeah, what do you think of the move? He's obviously joining Mick McCarthy there in Cyprus.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for him. It's a chance for him to play in another European league. He'll get to experience something new. Apoel are a good European side. Maybe they weren't in Europe this year, but there's a good chance they will qualify. Maybe a bit more than Rovers would have, to be honest, just based on general draws, whoever you get in the draws, etc. I think it's a good move, and it's good that Mick McCarthy's there with him as well, because he'll definitely get an opportunity. So yeah, I think it's a good move. I've no problem with it at all.
Yeah, it's just all these people who I see online, and they're just constantly saying, "Oh, it's a backwards move. It's this, it's that." So how do you know? He has to go there and see how he gets on. I mean, why wouldn't he go to a manager who gave him his Republic of Ireland debut? For me, that shows a manager who believes in him. So yeah, okay, he didn't play in some of the bigger games, but that's because we were going to be under the cosh for the whole game basically. Or the games against Switzerland and Denmark, I mean, more so than anyone else. And that was kind of when the games he kind of came in for. I mean, Georgia game maybe possibly could have been considered for, but I think Mick done whatever he could with him at Ireland level and played him in the friendlies just to kind of give him a teaser, because he couldn't just bring him out from the cold, sorry, and then see how he gets on in games. International football doesn't work like that. You're thrown in against the best of their country, and you're the best of our country. And I think Mick getting a lot of time now to actually work with Jack and improve him. Mick's improved a lot of players over the years. So I see a lot of people going, "Oh, Mick plays hoofball, this, that, and the other." He wouldn't have signed him if he was going to play hoofball. I've seen Ireland played a lot better football under Mick than they did O'Neill. It's just that, again, we just don't have the goals to back that up in terms of putting in the net, which is kind of like Stephen Kenny now. Obviously, not saying that they played similar brands, but Mick knows when to lump it, and he knows when to keep it simple as well. And with someone like Jack Byrne in the team, and you can get him on the ball, and he's allowed run and drive at defenders, and obviously his set pieces there, he's brought him in for that as well, because look at how many assists he got for Shamrock Rovers there this season just gone, and obviously his goals then as well, because he takes everything, corners, free kicks. Although I don't think he takes penalties too much anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah, you've mentioned everything there, and sure, Mick McCarthy's a proven manager. Like, there's no point in questioning him. He's done it for Ireland before. I don't think we were too bad the last time. I think he done what he had to do, and we nearly ended up qualifying in the end. We were just unlucky. That was it. Yeah, I think he's going to get loads of opportunities, and as you mentioned, he's not signing them to not play attacking football. So they obviously needed a player like Jack Byrne. He had a great season for Rovers last year. He owes Rovers nothing as well. He done everything there. He won the cup, won the league, and they done well in Europe when he was there as well. He scored a load of goals, load of assists. So I mean, he deserves the move, and I think it's a good move. I don't see any issue with it.
I think the only thing that's disappointing is the fact that Shamrock Rovers couldn't get a fee for him, because it would have been nice. You're losing a player of that quality for nothing is obviously disheartening for them, but they've already been quick in terms of getting players in. They've got Mandro, Sean Gannon, and a few other players that they've brought in as well. So it looks like they were already preparing for life without Jack Byrne anyway. So I just think it's a little bit disappointing for the league as well, in terms of the League of Ireland and League of Ireland fans, because when Jack Byrne was really kind of getting into it, COVID happened, and it stopped people being able. It stopped people being able to come live and see him, which he was playing brilliant football this season. So I think it was a bit unfortunate that fans couldn't get to him, because I think at the start of this season, I think you'll admit too, from being to games, the attendances were up. I think they were only going to keep going up. The last game I think I remember being in Tala before the coronavirus was the game in Dundalk and Rovers played in 3-2 and Jack scored the winner with his left foot. So I think that was the last game I was at in Tala, and you could just sense that there was this brilliant season, coming to a head, and then that happens. And it looked like, because Dundalk are notoriously slow at starting seasons and stuff like that, and the fact that it was an 18 league game season, I think they were disappointed, because they usually kind of have a really late surge and go on and win loads of games in succession. So, and obviously with the fans and stuff like that would have helped massively. But I think League of Ireland fans were a bit robbed of Jack Byrne's talents, because I don't think too many players like him come around too often to come back and play in the league and give it excitement and give it that level of flair, which he did. And you look at so many people who have history in the League of Ireland come on and saying how good of a player he was, and he's up there with like Pat Byrne and these types of players who are, tipped and said to be some of the greatest players to ever play the game. I would say he's up there with Wes Hoolahan. But I think Jack needs to do more now and kick on now, which is what he obviously aims to do. And then once he kind of, if he can try and do something in Cyprus, maybe get Apoel back in Europe and back winning things maybe from next season onwards, he may love it over there. And that might be just the kind of thing he needs now. And then coming back and playing well in the Ireland team if he gets picked. So yeah, it's a bit of a gamble, but what isn't a gamble these days in football? And I think every transfer is a gamble. So I think you just have to go with it.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the gamble there. It's no more or no less of a gamble than moving to Preston in the Championship, Apoel, as you mentioned, they're trying to get back into Europe this year. They're trying to get down in the league. It's a good move for him, and as you mentioned as well, he owes Rovers nothing. You mentioned the attendances at the start of the season as well. They were up that night as well. I was at Tolka when Shells were playing Pats, and it was as full as it could be as well. So, I mean, it would have been a great season for attendances anyway. So, I mean, fans have missed out. But again, with the Watch LOI service, if you're dedicated enough, you would have been watching it and you would have seen how good Jack Byrne was. They were on RTE a lot as well. They played against AC Milan. I mean, they were live a lot. So fans know about him. They know how good he is. They know how good he can be. And I think it's a good move for him. And as I mentioned, it's no more of a gamble than going to Preston in the Championship.
Yeah, and Graham Burke did that and hated it and came back. So,
Yeah, exactly.
And he's of a similar mould kind of Jack. He's not really, got a nailed on position. Because if you actually look at Jack Byrne's position, he's kind of got a free role similar to Graham Burke. As we both know from doing the team of the season, we couldn't find a position for Graham Burke, so we had to stick Jack Byrne as number 10 because he plays in that kind of free role. But I think, look, it's disappointing for the League of Ireland in that sense, but it's a great opportunity for Jack, so I'm delighted for him, and I hope it all goes well for him, and hopefully he'll be on the channel soon doing an interview with us, because he said he would once he signed, so hopefully we'll have him on soon. So just couple of other comments. Fume Costello 7 says, oh yeah guys, keep the comments coming in, keep the likes coming in as well. And Fume Costello says, do you think Obafemi will get into the Irish squad soon? Personally, I can't see it anytime soon unless he's banging in the goals and he's with a different club, because it doesn't look like he's going to get in at Southampton now. Che Adams ahead of him in the pecking order. There's another young lad who's ahead of him in the pecking order, and Shane Long is ahead of him in the pecking order. So I'd probably be wanting Shane Long to probably come in right now, but look, it's not till March anyway till an Ireland squad is picked, so you just never know. So I could say no now, and then by the time that happens, he could be in it. So look, if he is in it, happy days. If he's not in it, then that's unfortunate for him. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I think he has to be playing regularly enough to be getting in, especially up front. You look at even like the likes of Sean Maguire and all, who are playing all the time for their clubs. Whereas like he's as you mentioned, he's fourth and fifth choice. Like that's not good enough. The loan move would probably do him good. If he went to one of those, he'd definitely be getting in anyway, because the Championship, it's a slog and they need as many players as possible. Like you think of the Premier League clubs moaning because they have to play 3 games in a couple of days at Christmas. Championship do that pretty much every week. So I mean, like it'd be great for him, and he'd definitely get an opportunity. But if he stays with Southampton, I don't think he'd get in now.
Yeah, Gavin says, seeing articles about Troy Parrott being recalled by Spurs. Injury has affected him this season, but surely he doesn't have to deserve to be near squad, even late call, considering he's not scored a senior goal. I spoke about this last night. I said I wouldn't probably have him in, and I was arguing that players like Obafemi and Aaron Connolly don't actually get enough recognition in terms of scoring goals in the Premier League, whereas Troy hasn't really done a whole lot other than underage level, and he's been brilliant at underage level. But in terms of the senior level, he's had his Premier League debut and stuff like that. But the lads have actually been in the team and scoring. Obafemi a little bit in and out, but I think definitely Aaron Connolly doesn't get half as much recognition, and he's been scoring goals since last season in the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he scored on Saturday as well. Obviously, he went off injured, but he was looking very sharp and has looked very sharp whenever I've seen him this season. He's been unlucky with Ireland. Obviously, they had the COVID situation before Slovakia, and then the next break, I'm pretty sure he was injured as well. So
Yeah,
he's been
hamstring.
unlucky. Yeah, so he's been unlucky, and again, he's got. Hopefully, it's not a serious one now, and he's back playing soon. Because obviously the FA Cup is coming up too. There'll be more games to play, so Brighton will need as many as possible. Yeah, I think in terms of Parrott, I mean, he's still only young. You know, you can like I think he'd be better off playing with the 21s for as long as possible, and like maybe come into the senior squad every so often, maybe because like again, he hasn't scored. He played against New Zealand that night. He was good, but I mean, he's still very young, and it'll take time. Like being, I don't know if he's recalled to Spurs, like he's probably not going to play because Son and Kane are playing absolutely unbelievable as well. So he's definitely not going to get a chance there. Maybe with the amount of games they have with the Europa League and the Cup, he might get in. But I think maybe staying at Millwall for the season anyway would be good because he's definitely going to get an opportunity, like I said, with Obafemi as well.
I think I think what could help him is if Malumbi does go on loan to Millwall, which has been speculated but nothing's been confirmed. If he did go there, that would help Troy because they're obviously mates. They played together at under 21 level. Malumbi was his captain, and Malumbi was the one who recommended the move to Millwall in the first place. Shawnee Williams is the coach there, first team coach as well as a player. So it all makes sense if Malumbi went there, and then, excuse me, um, Troy was to stay there. Then I think they probably wait on something like that to happen to kind of see how it plays out. So that'll be interesting to see. Dara says, and he just asked, would we like to see him stay at Millwall? I think that question was answered there. So, Dara says, any news about Irish players moving club or on leaving for a loan? I haven't heard anything, and anything that has is up on our Instagram. So, we had Knight was linked with Palace, Burnley, and West Ham earlier today. Obafemi is linked with Swansea and Stoke. So they're the only ones at the moment. If we hear of any more or get told of any more, we'll let you know. So that's that. Paul Kennedy asks, what wages would he be on in Cyprus? What was he on for Rovers? No idea. It doesn't really matter to me, in my opinion. I don't really, as long as he's living well and earning well, it's his own business, in my opinion, anyway. So I don't know how much his wages are. It's a bigger stage for him to prove himself for more international football. That's obviously about Jack. Yeah, I agree, and I think it's it's yeah, it's a risk, but it's a risk that will probably give him many rewards. So hopefully that goes well. Sean Malloy says title. I don't know what that means. Premier League to continue under lockdown. I think he's telling us that. Um, yeah, well, good if it is because I say that in terms of giving us an outlet and something to do because when the Premier League stopped last time, it was horrendous. Obviously, the Bundesliga came back and it was the best thing ever when it came back.
Yeah.
But I couldn't hack another while without football. It's just it gives you that outlet. It gives you so many emotions. It's obviously great for people's mental health and stuff like that. Now that's not to say that the players should be guinea pigs or anything like that. Like if they're playing and they're safe, then yes. But we don't need another case of like it was with Man City there last week when they couldn't field the team because they were without so many players through COVID. So that's not what we want to see. But if it can be continued safely, then yes, happy days and long may that continue.
Mm. Oh yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you look at the majority of the games, like the majority of the games are still going ahead. Like obviously, there was always going to be a few positive cases. You know, just it's just the way it is, and they have procedures in place. They've done it successfully so far, in my opinion. Obviously, City had the issues last week. So did Fulham. Fulham have had 2 games called off. Like I mean, I think it's been like I think that was to be expected. I think that's actually less games than I thought there would be called off in the end. So, I mean, I don't think there's any reason to stop it. Gary Neville was saying the other day he doesn't feel there's any reason to stop it. Obviously, it'll affect the lower leagues more because there's not as much testing because they don't have as much money. But, I mean, I don't see any reason to stop it. Maybe, I think one point that could be made is the cup competitions. They could have maybe like held them off, maybe, and keep the leagues going. But again, I don't want, like, obviously Arsenal win the FA Cup majority of the time. I don't want it to stop. So, I mean, that I'd look at it that sense, but I don't think the leagues need to stop. You look at the other countries as well, like Spain and Italy. They've had very little issues, and they were worse than England and us at the start of this. So I don't see any reason for it to stop now.
Do they not have fans at the games in La Liga at the moment? Because I saw a video of the Betis fans, and they were throwing teddies down, and from the derby against Sevilla. It must have been an old video. I don't think it
Mm.
could have been from recent games. Like I thought it was from the one from the weekend. But I was thinking, how do they have fans back?
I don't think they do know because I flicked onto that for a second, but I didn't even see the stands when I was watching it on Saturday. When they're in the Liga, when you're watching it on that whatever channels, La Liga TV, they have like a sort of virtual fan thing on the stands. It looks really odd. So sometimes you do think it's
No,
fans,
this was
but
actual physical people throwing teddies down onto the pitch.
yeah,
It must
I've
have been
seen
from
that.
last season or something, maybe.
Yeah, I've seen that video before, so maybe it was, but I don't know. I didn't actually see. I only seen a bit of it on Saturday. I didn't even see the stands. So
Um, yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, I hope it continues. Long story short,
yeah,
thoughts on Josh Cullen at Anderlecht? He's been playing well recently, and he's obviously been starting games and stuff like that. I think I read on transfer market yesterday he's played 9 games, so he seems to be easing his way and settling in now, which is good because obviously, I think it's Vincent Kompany's the manager there. Would obviously speak English and would have lived in England and stuff like that, so it obviously would have helped him. It probably took him a bit of time to just get settled and stuff there because I think he was a late transfer as well in the transfer window too. So he's probably only finding his feet now. So I think he just keeps developing the way he's developing in happy days because I was getting worried that he was just going to rot in West Ham's reserves. And he took a bit of a risk as well, like Jack Byrne, like I said earlier. It's about time some of our players took risks and went abroad basically because and I think we'll see a lot more of that obviously with the Brexit stuff and stuff like that because Gary was on talking about that last night saying that a lot of players he doesn't see where they're gonna go, the likes of like Evan Ferguson. He might not be able to go to Brighton now because of the Brexit stuff like that. Now that's not confirmed, but that's just what he was saying. And Gary's yourself is an expert in all this type of stuff. So he was saying that players could end up going abroad and stuff like that, which could be a good thing. And I think more players need to go. But we look at Dan Rose, who's gone to Schalke, Irish goalkeeper, play for Everton. There's always going to be concerns whether he'll play for England or Ireland because he's the dual nationality. So that's one. But then you've got Connor Noss as well, which someone's mentioned in the comments there. I think Axel's mentioned it as well. I haven't seen who he's meant to be going to. Let us know in the comments where he's been linked to go. And then Sean Malloy just continues on that. He says, considering the fact he's playing week in, week out, it's obviously Josh. Yeah, he's doing well, as we said. It's a big step up from Charlton, I'd imagine. And he's playing in obviously Anderlecht, which is another big club in terms of European clubs and in terms of Belgium. I probably said they're the biggest. Definitely one I would know the most out of all the Belgian clubs. Maybe Standard Liège and Genk and Ghent would probably be the other ones I would know very well. But Anderlecht has always stood out as a club that has produced really, really good level players and consistently, like Ajax. They're kind of like the Ajax of Holland or of Belgium. Sorry, I think.
Yeah, definitely, I agree, and I think they've been struggling recently as well. I think Club Brugge have kind of taken
Club
over
Bruges as
there.
well. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and they've been in the Champions League as well. Yeah, I mean it's good. I agree with you saying they should go to the other countries because you even look at some of the English players when they went away to Germany, like Reece Nelson and John Joe Kenny and all. They were started most weeks and they get more of a chance. You look at England, even in the Championship, a lot of the teams are the same most weeks. Maybe they change it around every so often, so it's easier to get more opportunities and it gives them confidence when they do come back to their own clubs as well. So I think it's a good move. I have no issue with that. Exactly the same as Jack Byrne, like you've mentioned.
Yeah, well, I just hope it continues to work out for him. Lee Kelly, Steadfast United. He says, thoughts on Knight's recent form. Does he deserve a move to a Prem team? We discussed this already. We said he did deserve a move, but we probably don't want him to move in terms of the clubs that are interested with him. He'd probably be better off sticking in Derby and being the star man there. And they play to his strengths and they play in a system that obviously he plays well in. So I think for me anyway, and I think Paul, I think I'm speaking for you there as well. You'd like to see him
Yeah.
stay at Derby, and who knows if a Premier League club comes in for him and he starts for them, brilliant. Oh, just wide. You just at the same party as
Yeah, I
me
just
there.
seen that as well. Yeah,
Tella.
yeah, good effort.
Yeah, no, it was. So yeah, that's just on Jason Knight. Any of the other comments? This is actually an interesting one by Paul Kennedy. He says, if and when Sheffield United go down, can you see another Premier League team picking up Egan or Stevens? Yeah. They've obviously both signed new contracts recently enough, but I don't think they are actually the reason why Sheffield United are down where they are. It's kind of like Ireland in a way. They're very good defensively set up. They lose games 1 or 2-0, and generally speaking, that's the first goal of the game, which really turns the game on its head. So I think with Sheffield United and Egan, especially, I think he could a club that are looking to stay in the Premier League, he could be good. Someone like a Brighton or somewhere like that. Although they've Lewis Dunk could be kind of similar to Egan in ways, but somebody like that. And I think Stevens, yeah, somebody like a West Ham. They've got Cresswell there. Stevens would probably be better suited there. Maybe I think he could be a good. That's just off the top of my head. I think he could be a good signing for them. But would he be first choice every week? That's something you'd want for him because he's coming to the age of 30, 31 now, and you'd want him to be starting still every game. So that's what I think. What about you, Paul? What do you think of the lads and if they move anywhere?
Yeah, I think so. As you mentioned, like kind of Brighton, those sort of clubs, they'd be looking at them because, like, if they went down, they'd get a decent player coming to them. I mean, I don't see any issue with staying with Sheffield United if they went down to the Championship. Obviously, Sheffield United gave them a chance as well, and they came up with them. They might feel like they want to stay with them and make up for this year because I do think they will go down. I think it's in the up. Well, nah, free out. Never mind. Yeah, um, yeah. I mean, maybe they'd want to prove and say, "Oh no, we're not that bad a team." You know, I think they've been unlucky a couple of times this season. I watched them against Brighton a few weeks ago. Ollie Burke had a chance at 1-0 to kill the game and he blazed it over and then Welbeck equalised and they nearly ended up losing it. So, I mean, they've had opportunities. They were good against United a couple of weeks ago as well. They were leading as well. McGoldrick's been decent for them. So, like, I mean, yeah, you mentioned they could go to the likes of Brighton and stuff. I mean, Stevens, yeah, the left back is tougher because a lot of the clubs seem to have a set left back already as well. As you've mentioned, Egan, he could get a move, but I mean, I wouldn't see them. I wouldn't not see them staying there either. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a chance they would stay if they did go down.
Well, I think obviously Egan is now the captain of the club. I think with Billy Sharp's not playing,
Hmm.
I think he's the captain now. But I think someone's just said there, Michael Marnie says, as a West Ham fan, I don't see Egan getting in our back line ahead of any of our starters. I wasn't saying him. I was saying Stevens would be good at West Ham in terms of the way that they play. Because I just think back to when Moyes was manager with Leighton Baines at Everton and how good he got the best out of him. I just think he'd be a good manager for him. to play under, and he's used to playing with kind of Irish and then obviously British in terms of Scottish and Welsh and English players. He's good at working with them. He's good at getting the best out of a lot of them, and has proven that over the years. So that's kind of why I was saying that. In terms of Egan, I think he'd be better suited to like a Brighton or someone like that. It looks like Potter's trying to play that type of way. There's a couple of Irish lads already there. So it was just an idea. Although, look, Shane Duffy's out of there right now at the moment, isn't he? So you never know. So there's other clubs, I'm sure, if we really got down to thinking about it, there's other clubs. Southampton might be a club as well for Egan. But as you mentioned, Paul, it is kind of hard in terms of left backs, because most clubs do have, like, you look at Bertrand for Southampton, you know, Kieran Tierney, you've got who else?
Like you said, Palace, like Van Aanholt always starts with him at left back as well. So I mean, he'd be very tough to get by.
Yeah. Who else? There's like nearly every club, like Robertson, Lucas Dean, Chilwell. Who have Leicester got at left back?
They signed your man.
Fofana.
They signed the fella called Fofana, but they had
Fofana.
They have James Justin, and they're mixing up who they're playing there and all as well. They have a fella they got from Atalanta as well, Castagna, I think his name is, and they've been swapping sides all the time. Like Leicester are fairly same team most weeks as well, so it'd be tough to get by there too.
Just Michael has come in with another comment there. He says Shane Long needs to move away. I always thought he'd be class in the MLS. Well, it depends. Like, obviously he's about 34 now, I would say. So it depends on what he wants to kind of get out of his career now. Does he want to kind of wind down? And I've seen like his missus' Instagram and stuff like that. It looks like they kind of live on like a farm kind of area. So I don't think he'd get that over in the States if they were looking to move there. I don't know what his lifestyle's like, and I'm not having a go at any country people before you think I am. It's just the fact that when I see the stories, it looks like he lives in a very kind of countryside kind of area where I don't think he'd get that in the States. Although moving there for his football, it might, for 1 or 2 years, it could be good for him personally. But I think that would be the end of his international career, which may not be actually a bad thing at this time, because we have a lot of young good players coming through in terms of strikers at the moment. And I think someone like a James Collins might be better suited at the moment in terms of a goal scorer to actually lead the line. If one of our young lads can come in there like Ida or Connolly, or like, I even still think that Callum Robinson's ahead of him in the pecking order as well. And I would like to see Callum maybe used through the middle now for Ireland in future qualifiers and future international games. Maybe as a two with Connolly. I think that could work really well because they're both tricky and they both kind of get around and have that bit of zip about them. I think too many of our strikers in recent times have not been mobile enough, and I think that's, although in saying that, Long is obviously mobile, but he never really had the service up there. He was always up on his own, and he expected to, lump balls up, chase it into the channel and hope for the best, which isn't anything on his, ability or anything like that. It's just I felt as though if we had a bigger man to play off for Shane Long, that could have helped him in previous games, but we always seem to play with like a 4-5-1. This is pre Stephen Kenny and even pre Mick McCarthy, I would have said, with Shane Long. But he hasn't been the main man for a long time, so maybe a move to the MLS would probably be good for him. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Kevin Doyle went over, Robbie Keane went over, and was great. I mean, it seems like a fairly chilled out sort of league. Yeah, St. Ledger. It seems like a fairly chilled out sort of league, like obviously you play your game on the weekend, and then, I mean, living in America, it's a great lifestyle, You mentioned Long. Like you mentioned, like, is that Long's lifestyle? Would it suit him? I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but again, you never know. You never know. Maybe staying in England would be a good thing. Dropping the level, go back to Reading could be a chance. Even, you never know, because he was there for ages and he done well for them. So Scotland could come calling, or even back to Ireland, maybe where he started.
Yeah, obviously Cork City are looking for strikers and everything else at the moment. So
yeah,
maybe. Christopher Cully says he's seen some clips of Jason Knight playing for Derby. He's absolutely class. Yeah, he's good. Maybe you should give him a watch. He's usually on Sky with Derby. Sam Carey's in the comments there giving out saying that we all say that we don't want the Queen over here, but yet we follow the Queen's football teams. We need to stop talking about the Queen's football teams. But yeah, there's Irish players playing for the clubs that we're watching. So if you don't like it, then you should probably tune in somewhere else. Ross Morrissey, Steadfast United. He says, "Good evening, gents. How's Ross?
Hey,
Hope
Ross.
you're keeping well. You know Ross from training. You'd have known Ross. Probably been on your
Yeah,
team more
yeah.
than mine.
Yeah, lovely lad. Added me on Insta there the other day. Privileged.
Oh, friends.
Ooh, steadfast friends.
Yeah. Sam says it's actually a good point, so I don't know if he's giving it out to us or agreeing with us, but anyway, not going to get into it.
I think he's doing that League of Ireland fan video because he said all the points in that are from. Do you remember your man, the Pats fan? You ever seen that video? You must have seen that video. It's in town. It's beside the Spire, and your man's saying, "Oh, we don't want the Queen over here. We support all the English football teams," and and of course Celtic and all this. I think it's that video because he said a lot of the same things your man says.
I don't know. I don't really care.
Mm.
Andrew Cudden says, "Commander Saints 21 is coming."
He's talking about United.
Oh right, okay. I was like, what? Southampton
Let's
21 leagues.
let's
I was
hope
there
that's
going, what?
let's hope that's not the case.
Well, I don't want to be Liverpool. Paul says, Ross says Paul was there at the early days in Marley training, so he obviously remembers you. Obviously,
Yeah.
if anyone's actually just tuned in, don't forget to give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe as well if you're new. And as well, obviously, you can see there it says in between Paul and myself there, use the code IFFTV for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So why not go over? It's not just stuff for shaving your balls. There is other stuff, deodorants and stuff like that, and other stuff for looking after yourself. So head over and check it out, and you can use the code IFFTV for 20% off. Not just on ball trimming stuff, but you can use it on all different stuff, and use the code IFFTV, and you'll get 20% off and free shipping. I would definitely recommend anyway. So they support us, so we want you to support them.
Yeah.
Leave it there as well, going along the bottom if you want. Get your comments in as well. It's obviously half time here, and it's Southampton 1, Liverpool 0 so far. Liverpool I suppose been, I wouldn't say unconvincing. What am I trying to say? I don't think they've been really bad, but I think Southampton have defended well, but they've got lucky as well. I think obviously their goal, they took it well, Southampton, but I think Liverpool will be coming out here in the second half and really going at Southampton.
Yeah, like I don't think Liverpool can afford to drop points here going into that game against United. Obviously they're still struggling at the back with injuries, etc. But I don't really think that's an excuse. Like people fill in, you do the job, and they've only lost one game in the league this season, Liverpool. So, like, okay, they've drawn a couple more than they might have usually, but it hasn't really affected them that much. You mentioned they're going to come out in the second half, and I mean, Southampton are a good side as well. They've had a great season and they're constantly a goal threat. So I'm not surprised that this is what it is.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that. I was just putting that up on screen there so people kind of get an idea of what they could get over there. So make sure to go, if you do go over and you do check it out and you do use the code, let us know that you've used it, and let us know what you got as well. Even if you think it's slightly embarrassing, we're not going to judge you. So there's no comments coming in. People must be getting off to get a bit of food or something like that at half time. But I'm just going to update the title there so people know what the score is. So what do you think of the League of Ireland starting on the 26th of March? It seems like it's going to be the start date, but it hasn't been confirmed yet.
Obviously, it's very late. Usually, it's around mid to late February. But I mean, it's obviously to try and hope that we can have some sort of fans in. You know, I mean, I was watching the darts last night as well. They're doing similar. They're starting the Premier League in April and May rather than in February. So I think it's an idea with a lot of people. And like in terms of League of Ireland, can they really go another season without like another? Well, not they didn't have the whole season without fans, but the vast majority, can they afford to go another year without them? personally, I don't think so for a lot of clubs. But yeah, I think it's the right move. But obviously, it's disappointing as a fan that it's not starting sooner.
Yeah, obviously as well because we get to go and cover the games and stuff like that. It's a bit disappointing that we have to wait that long. Probably now to go to a live event, and obviously the international football is not going to be till then as well. It's going to be a long couple of months, and that's right at the end of March. It's not like it's at the start of March. It's actually at the end of March, which
Mm.
it looks like it's going to be. So it is disappointing, but you can see why they're doing it. And obviously, if we could, there's still no guarantees that we're going to have sponsors in the league and stuff like that. So that's been another thing that's been a reason for it being pushed back. So it's a lot of things you've got to take into account. I just hope that there is a season, and I hope it's a bit longer than obviously the season that we had, but it probably won't be.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, surely things can start getting better because if there's a vaccine there now, like there has to be some sort of hope. Obviously, what's going on at the minute is bad here. It's very bad here, and it's bad across Europe as well. But like, hopefully, we can start making progress now in the next couple of weeks, and that March start will not be changed again.
It's the government's fault why it's like this, let's be honest. Letting people do what they want for Christmas and then basically locking them back up as soon as the cases went back up. They knew it was going to happen. Like, it's just stupid.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a
I
bit.
think you look at the airports as well. I mean, there's stats that like 30,000 people had come in since the 8th of December. Like, I mean, surely, like, it can't be all our faults. Like, I have to go to work 4 days a week. A lot of people do as well. Interacting and socializing is what we look forward to, and when we get given an opportunity to do it, we're gonna do it, and that's it. So I don't know. I think blaming us all together is a bit harsh, but look, keep going.
Well, I'm not blaming you, Paul.
Oh no, I know, but it's the government. They're kind of blaming all the socializing at Christmas
It's their
after they
fault.
let.
They basically encouraged it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I think, like I have friends who work in pubs and all as well. Like maybe they could have split what way they were doing it and like say, all right, you can open this first and then do the household visits later, rather than open the two at the same time. But again, look, it's ifs and buts. But look, it is what it is, and we just have to try and make progress now, and hopefully it will start soon.
Yeah, just gonna go through some of the comments there as well. Axel Fox says can't see fans in March for games in the LOI. We've kind of just discussed that. Anyway, Paul Kennedy comes in again and he says, "How far away is Joe Hodge from the Ireland team? Can you see him staying with us? And is he close to making the City squad?" Joe Hodge is obviously a fantastically talented lad. He won the FA Youth Cup there with City against Chelsea, I think, couple of months ago there now, and looks to be a quality player. I think Pep's mentioned him a few times. I don't think he has been training with the Man City squad or anything like that, so I wouldn't say he's close to making a first team debut. Probably most likely go out on loan. You look at how long it took Phil Foden to get into the team, and he's still not a regular, but he's still quality when he plays. So is that going to be the case with Joe Hodge? Will he stick with us? Who knows? We thought the other fella was going to stick with us, and then he just decided that he didn't want to play for us anymore. Grealish, yeah, I know he played underage, under 21s level, so I don't really have as much of a problem with him. He didn't play senior team, so I don't really have that much of an issue with him. But it would be great if Joe Hodge played with us. It would be great if he went on to be somebody like Roy Keane, who drove us on in games and stuff like that. Because a lot of our midfielders, they don't affect the game enough, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about it, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, listen, hopefully he does stay with us because he's been playing very well, and obviously he won the FA Youth Cup as well. I mean, it's always going to be a question now with lads: are they going to stay with us? Are they going to move off? Um, I mean, just got to hope for the best, and ultimately it's their decision at the end of the day, and whatever way they're swayed, they're going to go for it. Yeah, I mean, he's doing well, so he should keep doing that. And if Pep's talking about him, that's a good sign as well. So, you know.
Yeah, well, obviously he needs to keep going the way he's going, and obviously then he will attract obviously Pep, or he could, well, by the time he breaks through, Pep could be gone. So you just never know, and that's just kind of the way it is with football. He could get lucky, he could get a few injuries, and before you know it, he's training with the first team. And then I actually foresee him playing for Ireland before he plays for Man City. And if that is the case, and he gets in and gets his first cap, because I think Stephen Kenny's a bit more savvy to that than say Mick was, and he might just say, you know what, Stephen might just say, let's just get him in and let's cap him. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that seems to be the way with a lot of them at the minute, and obviously with COVID and injuries as well. You look at City; they've been hammered with it. Even yesterday, they didn't have a striker. Obviously, it didn't affect them. They ended up hopping off Chelsea, which we did as well. I have to mention it because they're not that good a side. But yeah, I mean, there's every opportunity, and I mean, with Ireland as well, he gets a good opportunity. Like, I mean, a lot of the young lads get opportunities at the minute, so I don't see why that wouldn't happen, like you've mentioned.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see what happens. I don't think he'll be capped for a couple of years anyway, but he just said, and he the most promising underage player coming through, or is there any others? I'd probably say Kevin Zeffy. He's a little bit younger than Joe Hodge. Probably say him, Evan Ferguson as well. So we have a couple of good players there coming through. They played each other recently enough in the under-17s final, which Gary was at, and Evan Ferguson came out the victor on that. Get Collie Conroy as well, who was playing for Bows. Axel, let me know if it's Bows St. Kevin's or is it just Bows at that level. But they generally come in and from that club. So I think there's a good few players coming through, but they would probably be the top level ones that you'd say. But then again, how many players come in and develop after that age, after the likes of 20 and so on? So you just don't know right now. We'll have to see. And so many players kind of come in. Yeah, he says there it's Bows St. Kevin's boys. So it's obviously the players are coming through there, and they're doing a great job in terms of developing the players and bringing them through. You look at how many players are in the Bows team now, and a lot of them came through St. Kevin's. Jack Byrne came through St. Kevin's as well. He's on the move. Michael O'Connor, Dan Mandreo. There's loads of them. I go through them for ages, but we just have to see if they actually develop to a level where they can be regulars for Ireland. That's what we want, obviously, all our players to be able to come in and represent and do a good job. Chris McDonough must be a Liverpool fan. Yeah, he is. I can see the
Yeah,
picture there. Now. He
he's
said, "Why
having
are
a
we
bit of
playing
a
a high line?"
rage.
Yeah, he said, "Why are we playing a high line when our centre backs, when our centre backs are midfielders? Jesus, Trent is shocking. Can't get any passes together. Somehow need Henderson back in midfield. He obviously sets the tempo for them. Their young centre backs aren't great. Our only options. So
I
shocking.
think he means it's shocking.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. See, I don't know with Liverpool. Obviously, they're without Van Dijk and Gomez, who are and Matip as well. I think so. Fabinho's been their, I suppose, star centre back, even though he's a midfielder, and I think he used to be a right back, and then he was put in as a defensive midfielder, and that's where he really excelled as defensive midfielder. He's not a centre back, and you can kind of see that. But I think Jordan Pickford's probably to blame for the fact that he don't have a centre back. But other than that, it's all been kind of injuries and stuff like that. I think you just have to make do with what you have at the moment. I mean, clubs have gone through that uh, over the years. Man United were actually quite good. I remember they had, is it Darren Gibson, and they had a couple of other players centre back, or was it centre midfield? I think they had Raphael and the other lad.
I remember Michael Carrick filled in a couple of times at centre half as well,
That's right,
just
yeah.
when he had to. Yeah, but like
So
I mean,
clubs have to do it, you know.
yeah, exactly. Like it's the same with everyone, you know. And I mean, this is a tough game for them. And 2 minutes in, Southampton get a goal. Danny Ings is a very good striker, one of the most in form in the league in the last couple of seasons. It's tough, but again, January is a month where we can bring in a couple of players. Where Liverpool can bring, not we, I don't support Liverpool. When Liverpool can bring in a couple of players, but yeah, they have to go looking, and there are centre halves available out there. Obviously, they don't trust the young lads who are on the bench, so yeah, go out, get someone in. And I mean, United in a couple of weeks as well, they might have players back for that, and then they'll be back on track. I still think they're the best team in the league, but again, these are things we just have to get on with.
Yeah, as you mentioned last night with City not even having a striker, and they got on with it. So it's just one of those things. Everybody seems to be struggling a lot more with COVID in terms of injuries and stuff like that. A lot of squads are depleted. So It is what it is. Just anyone who might be joining there, just make sure you drop a like on the video. It helps us out. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. And if you're not following us on Facebook, make sure you're following us. Give the page a like if you wouldn't mind, please. And Ross Cadweather has just joined. He says, do you think people forget about Will Smallbone when talking about Irish youngsters? I feel like Parrott, Malumbi and Ida get talked about a lot more. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, maybe he does, but I mean,
I haven't seen or heard from him really this season.
yeah, like he came in a couple of times this season. He started even towards the start. He started a couple of games, but I think those lads that he has mentioned have just played a bit more consistently over the last year and a half or so. Like Malumbi was on loan at Millwall, he done great there. Paris, I mean, he was in and out of the Irish setup, the Irish senior setup, and Ida came in for Norwich as well, and is like one of their main strikers. So that's why Smallbone just hasn't been involved as much as the other lads. Simple as.
Yeah, but I do think Will Smallbone's a very good player, and I think the only thing kind of holding him back, he's a bit lightweight. I'd like to see him maybe put on a bit of muscle and kind of fill out a tiny bit. Not a whole lot, but you look at Ward Prowse, he kind of reminds me of him when he was younger. He's a bit kind of like a stick, and he's kind of filled out a little bit now, and he's kind of up to the physicality of the Premier League. Even Oxlade-Chamberlain would be a good example to him. He obviously came through Southampton as well, but he just came up on screen as I was talking about it. I kind of look at them as examples of players who kind of just fill out over time, and he will over time. He was the last time I heard of Smallbone, he was playing for the under-21s, and I think it was the Iceland game, or was it the Italian game? And that was the last time I kind of seen or heard from him. I haven't heard too much about him since, but I do think that kind of goes back to the point I made earlier, that a lot of players like Ida and Parrott get talked about a lot more than even Connolly and Obafemi, who have come in and scored in Premier League games and played in Premier League games and stuff like that. But yeah, Michael Marney says, who replaces Darren Randolph? Yeah, once he's done, Kelleher. Right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's that. I think that's the hope, to be honest. And maybe he won't be with Liverpool, but he'll definitely be in another side anyway, because he proved a couple of weeks ago he's good enough to be in. So maybe if it's not with Liverpool, it'll be with someone else.
Well, I think if anything's happened to Darren between now and March, I think Kelleher has to be the next one in line. I know Travers has played and stuff like that, but I think Kelleher has shown he can handle the pressure of coming in a big game, in a Premier League game or a Champions League game. So I think he would be able to handle the pressure of a international game. You know, although I think Serbia would be a kind of a very intimidating place. Now that would obviously depend on our fans going to be allowed back in or stuff like that. And if it wasn't, this is all hypothetical, so none of this may actually ever happen. But if it is to be the case, if having fans not there may not be a bad thing, if Keller was to come in and make his debut against Serbia. But I still feel as though he can handle the pressure. But I just think Serbia, of all places, would be a dodgy enough kind of place to make your debut either way, because they are a decent team, they have decent players. I still think we could probably beat them, but we'd have to be on our game.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. We got a point off them out there a couple of years ago, and lost 1-0 here. But
Scotland beat them too.
Scotland beat them. Like they're very inconsistent side. You look at Mitrovic; he's very hit and miss with Fulham, and now he's messing around with the COVID as well. So, like a lot of their players are very similar. They've got Tadic at Ajax, who's always very hit and miss. Was very hit and miss when he was with Southampton. Good player, but as I've said, hit and miss. They've got Nastasic as well. He used to play for City at centre half. I wouldn't rate him that highly at all. Like they're there to be got at, and we're not that much worse than them. So, I mean, I wouldn't have any fear playing them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I just whenever we play against someone and we're expected to beat them, we never do well. So
I wouldn't expect
to treat us as the underdogs rather than treating them as us as the favourites in the game.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect us to beat them. I'd expect us to give them a decent game, and like it won't be easy for them. But I think we do that to most teams anyway. That's the thing. But like I wouldn't have any fear against Serbia. I'd be more worried about dropping points away to Azerbaijan or something stupid, like which we do a lot as well. So that'd be more of a worry.
Yeah, Hopefully Stephen Kenny's Green Army can sort that out when we get back. But he just says maybe Smallbone needs him loan away. I would just kind of keep him where he is for now. He's kind of in and out of the Southampton team. It's kind of what he needs right now. I don't think if he goes anywhere, it's going to make much of a difference. He's going to be young and inconsistent anyway. But Hasenhüttl seems to be a lad who likes he likes to bring through players and give them a chance, and I think that's shown. I think Obafemi maybe needs to work a bit harder, but I think Smallbone has the right attitude. So anyway, big man Shane Duffy says hi. Hi, big man. Luke O'Connell is a great player, just unlucky with injuries. I would agree. I think he just needs to get his act together and maybe get himself in the Celtic team. It's been a bit weird that himself and a few others haven't got a look in at Celtic at all because they've been struggling. Leo O'Connor had to go out on loan to get game time. Afalabi as well. So a lot of Irish players don't seem to be doing much over there. Barry Coffey, I haven't heard much from him either. So there's a few players there you're wondering they might be moving away from Celtic maybe next summer if things don't change, but maybe a change of management might fix that, I don't know. But Neil Lennon brought in a lot of those players around the same time. Big man Shane Duffy says expectations from Troy Paris. I would like to see him finish with 10 league goals before the end of the season for Millwall. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this season, as a striker, that's what he should be looking for, particularly on loan and maybe for his age. Like 10 is a good marker for anyone, really. Anyone in midfield or attacking. So I'd agree with that. And overall, like Parrot, I mean, it's probably still too early to judge what's going to happen there. You know, like will he ever get in at Spurs? Personally, I don't think so. Maybe, but I mean, it's going to be a long time.
It's a handball.
Yep. Have they given it? Are they looking at it? It's a handball. I mean,
I don't think they've given it.
no, they haven't.
What was that guy talking about Henderson in midfield when he's there?
No, he's saying Henderson is playing centre half, and he's saying they need him in midfield. Is what he's saying.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, what's he talking about? I'm supposed to be a Liverpool fan. Sorry about that, Christopher. Action area is 1% Liverpool's box. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just wondering, was it going to be a penalty? That's all.
Yeah. Oh, they're in again. Oh, no, they're not in again. Never mind. Bad touch away from me now. I was just saying, like, overall with Parrott, like, I don't know, like, he never seems to really play enough, and he's still very young as well, so I don't really know what could happen in a couple of years, like, whether he could get a bad injury and get unlucky, he could start scoring a couple of goals. Like, as you said, you made a good point, he should be looking to get 10 goals this season and kick on from there. But it's a tough one.
Yeah, and maybe including the 10 goals might be an international goal or another 21 goal as well,
exactly.
Just to maybe get him over the line. But Axel Fox says, plus Paul, he is an Everton fan. I think he's talking about Will Smallbone. I'm not sure because I think Troy is a Liverpool fan, so it must be Will Smallbone he's talking about.
Another Everton fan, great.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Randolph has been such a vital player for us. I remember Euro 2016, he made some massive saves. Yeah, he's been brilliant since he's got the shirt. During that game against Germany when we won, and he set up Shane Long for the goal. Couldn't have probably dreamt for a better, I suppose, competitive debut, could he?
No, definitely not. I mean, that was dreamland for us. I remember I had my debs the day after that, and we were all singing about it all night there. So, I mean, honestly, one of the best nights going, to be honest, really, you know.
I was in Canada for it. I being down. I can't believe they actually showed it in Canada. They showed the game, and we were sitting beside a load of Germans. They were all these old lads. And I was living in a ski town at the time. 2015 it would have been. And we were sitting, me and my mate, both Irish, like, and we can't remember. The game was on a night game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 7:45 at night, yeah.
Yeah, so it was during the day kind of for us over there. And obviously Ireland took the lead, and we just screened the place down. The Germans were there with their hats and everything on them. They were going mad. And we were just rubbing it in their face, sitting there. It was wing. I think it was a Wednesday night because we were having Wing Wednesday. And yeah, we were throwing wings around the place, and the Guinness was going everywhere. as
Yeah,
you do. It's a great night, or a
exactly.
great day.
Yeah. And I mean, probably the best win we've had in the Aviva, to be honest. Maybe the Bosnia one is up there with it as well, but definitely, yeah, my favourite one anyway. What a goal. And
They
the
were world
commentary.
champions, though, Paul. You got
Exactly,
to remember
yeah.
that
And
as well.
yeah, like, I mean, it's now me and Feet to beat them, and they were really annoyed with losing that. I remember, like, I know maybe they were already through or they were close to going through, but that doesn't matter. Like, you don't want to be losing games. As you're Germany, you don't want to be losing any games in qualification, which we've seen them do so many times. So it was a great win for us.
And as well as that, we'd been beaten by Scotland, so it was a huge kind of mentality switch because we went on to have a decent run after that. I think we may have gotten beat by Poland. Um,
Yeah, a couple
after
of days after we did, yeah, Walters got a penalty, but like we didn't really have a patch on them, to be honest, that night.
I think a lot of it was taken out from the Germany performance though,
Yeah, I
because they
thought
gave it everything.
yeah, I remember Wes Houlihan was brilliant that night as well. They were like loving him in the like. I remember Dunphy and all were still there, and they were saying this is fantastic. He's so cool on the ball. He just fits into playing against those Germans so well. Like it's up against Tony Kroos and the likes. I mean, no mean feat to fit in there. You know.
What a legend though, Wes on his class.
Ah,
He's
brilliant.
just such a top guy.
Yeah, the one that sums him up for me is like after missing that chance against Italy and then just putting such a pinpoint cross in for Brady, literally a couple of minutes later. Like, it just shows class and shows how good he was. Put the chance straight out of his head, straight in, and that was unbelievable night as well. God.
That
Okay.
popped up on my memories there recently. I sent it to him on WhatsApp, and he was saying he was getting goosebumps and all watching it back because it showed the
Yeah.
miss, and then it showed him getting the assist. I'm sure he would have rather the goal, but sure he got the goal against Sweden, which was
Yeah.
beautiful as well.
Yeah, the goal against Sweden was great, and I always remember the BBC's commentary of that. I think it was I can't remember who was doing it, but like he was loving Ireland that tournament, and Mark Lawrenson was on with him, and you could hear them both going, "Oh yes, get in there!" Like and that's what you want,
Yeah, you'd miss it big time. Obviously, Ireland
Yeah,
at tournaments and stuff like that. So
yeah,
hopefully that'll change soon, and we can get back to winning ways. Testicles is back with another comment. He says, "Is this StreamYard Testicles? You should check out Manscaped. You'd probably like it. Is this StreamYard? Yes, it is. Luca Connell is the Everton fan. Obviously makes sense because he's Scouse. And Seamus Coleman actually took him under his wing. I think Mick McCarthy had him in training with him, and he had him in. So he was saying how much that was great for him because he was at Bolton at the time, and Seamus was obviously Everton captain. So yeah, hopefully Luca comes in, does well. Everyone's afraid of him leaving Ireland, but yeah, he can't get into any team at the minute, starting 11 at the moment. Shaqiri's just came on there for Liverpool, looking real weird with his haircut.
just looks like a weird person in general. Just his body shape is unbelievably odd, but like he's a quality player. I've nothing against him. Like he just looks an odd body shape, whatever you want to talk about him. Like,
He's never really made the grade though, has he? I mean, he's always kind of been a bit part player. You see him there running around there. He even looks weird the way he runs. But
yeah,
it's just he's never done like he was at Bayern from I think was it Basel he went from,
yeah,
and
Basel. Yeah.
he was the next big thing. He went to Bayern, didn't really do it, kind of in the shadow of Robben and Ribery, which most players would be in fairness. Then I think he went to Inter, didn't work out there. Went to Stoke then. Good save or great tackle. Vestergaard
Oh
was it?
yeah, Dale
Um,
Stevens maybe. I think.
Mane, I thought Mane had scored. Yeah, Stevens, you're right.
Yeah, Stevens. Did I say Dale Stevens? I don't think that's him. I've done that before. I don't think that's him. I think that's
No,
the
it's
fella
not
that plays
Dale
in
Stevens
Brighton.
because he plays for I think it's Burnley now.
Yeah, it's
He
not
left
him.
Brighton and joined someone there. He's Premier League
Jack
winner.
Stevens, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was
Always mixed
Vestergaard.
him.
Vestergaard is class. The
He's
Danish lad.
yeah, he actually got in the someone picked their fantasy team in the season. He got in it because of the amount of points he's got this year so far. So well, half season.
Yeah, but he's brilliant at those diagonal passes as well. So
Mm.
yeah, I think he's class. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there because of the tackle. Can you remember what I was waffling on about?
Um, was it Luke O'Connell with James Cohn?
No, it was Shaqiri because he's on the ball now.
Yeah,
He went to Stoke then after those clubs, and then obviously Liverpool after Stoke got relegated. But he's only ever kind of done one or two things. He's never really had a consistently good season,
yeah.
which makes him kind of stand out. He's obviously been good for Switzerland and stuff like that, but never really lived up to the heights and probably the player everybody thought he was going to be. And he comes in, he does okay for Liverpool and stuff like that. But I just don't think he's the player that people talk about. Is that a penalty? No. A goal kick maybe.
Very, very slight touch there. Wouldn't be getting the penalty for that.
You see that fantasy football thing? I don't even play it anymore. I just stopped.
Mm,
But I had Mane in the team, and as soon as I took him out of the team for Salah, Mane started scoring, and Salah didn't. And Salah
mm,
hadn't been scoring, and Mane was. I was raging, but it is
mm.
what it is.
It's a tough one. I'm doing awful this year, but look, that's the way it goes.
What I hate about I come back to that thing in a sec. But what I hate about fantasy football is right. You could know your football and stuff like that, and know it really well, but you could be down the relegation zone because the players you think that week aren't performing, and then before you know it, people get lucky, and that gap kind of forms a little bit. Um, I just find it really frustrating. I end up losing. Like there'll be a week where I forget about it. I just have so much other things going on. You forget about it, and that's the week. Then everything goes wrong, and then you kind of go back to it, and you're just like, oh, what's the point? I'm playing catch up here, and
Yeah,
the gap is too far now. Although I did
yeah.
one year it was 2015, and my mate was bragging about how great he was at it, and I went on, and then by the end of the season, I bet him as the season when Suarez and Sturridge were brilliant for Liverpool, and
Mm,
Gerrard slipped.
yeah.
So it's that season. I think was it that season? Yeah,
That's
because they
2014, I think that was.
when they crumbled against Palace.
Mm, yeah.
That's that. Sorry for any Liverpool fans who are watching. Bring you back to that time, but you've
Mm,
inflicted so many horrible memories on me over the years, so it's only fair. But it was that season. Suarez was unbelievable, and he was my captain, so he was just getting hat tricks every week and assists and goals. He was just unplayable at that time.
yeah,
So I had him in and I ended up winning it. So there you go.
yeah.
There's
That's
a
it.
story for the grandkids. I know Gav is only, I think he meant to say 17 or 18, but he's our only proper starting keeper. He must mean at Rochdale. Yeah, he is. But I think it's too early to bring him in to have a look at him as a first choice. I think Kelleher is ahead of him in the pecking order and has proven that at Liverpool, as we've mentioned. That's just it by the post. So I think Kelleher is next in line, and the fact now that he's Liverpool's number two and not his number three, I would have said before if he was still number three, I'd have said maybe send Kelleher out on loan. But now the fact that he'd probably get a better education and a better kind of experience being number two and always being ready rather than being the number three and kind of just, oh yeah, I might travel with the squad. I think it'd suit him a lot better if he was to stay at number two at Liverpool. Alisson's been getting injured a good bit recently, so there might be an opportunity for him there again to come back in, or he could get suspended because Liverpool play the high line and stuff like that. He could be the last man and commit a foul and get sent off, and he misses a couple of games. So I think there's a bit more of an opportunity for Kelleher to play now, and they might just decide to rotate the keeper sometime. Although I think if Alisson's fit, he starts, doesn't he? So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that Bazunu is the only keeper that we have, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, no, Keller, Bazunu's doing very well at Rochdale as well. So, I mean, like, it's good cover to have. But I think Randolph can be involved for a couple of years now as well. He's not going to go unless he gets a bad injury or decides to retire. I think he'll be there for as long as he possibly can. And that's a good thing as well. He's solid. So, happy enough with him.
I think Randolph it'd be great if he kept bringing Randolph into squads even when he's at a time where he's past it, like Shay Given did when Randolph was coming through. I think
Mm.
it would help him. Obviously, I spoke there about um, Allison being a big help for Kelleher. I think Randolph is a big help for those young Irish keepers as well, and he'd be good at talking to them and being there when they're coming through and like talking to them through the moments and how he handled the pressure of having to come in. And I just think he'd be great to have. He seems to be very, very good with the young lads and stuff like that. Obviously, we were speaking with him after the Kelleher made his kind of his competitive debut in the Champions League, and Shane Long's warming up there just as I'm talking. And Randolph basically said, he was. I think he commented on one of our Instagram posts saying how delighted he was to see him doing well, and then we were chatting with him, and we were just saying like fair play. A lot of people would have been kind of bitter the fact that he was doing well. He's like, yeah, not me. I'm delighted. My young cat, he called him. It's great to see him. It's great to see him getting in and playing. So I think soon enough, I think Kelleher could get the nod, probably for the Qatar game if Randolph is fit.
Yeah, that'd be good for him as well. Like, mad that we're going to be playing Qatar and a couple of friendlies as well. I know they don't have any qualifiers, so it makes sense with them. But mad that it's like it's usually Oman and now it's Qatar, or Oman, however you say it,
That would be a bad omen.
Yeah.
64 minutes played. It's Southampton 1, Liverpool 0. Get the comments coming in. We've got 7 people online. We've got 7 people liked the video. So sort that out. We've got 5 on YouTube and 2 on Facebook. Sort it out, guys. Make sure to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to check out Manscaped as well. Get 20% off by using the code IFFTV and free shipping as well. There's a comment coming in there. A couple of comments there now. So David Salt has joined us in the comments. He's always a good man for the comments. Dead Man Walking says, also it might be a bit of bias from myself as a Morovas fan, but do you think the other LOI players will be called in for the squads, or do you think it was a once off in the last international break? I think the players that were called up was because we were completely depleted. That's not to say that they wouldn't be called up again, because they have the quality to be called up. I think players like Aaron McAniff, I think you might see more of his brilliance this season. The fact that Jack is gone now, I think people might start seeing more of what McAniff does, and he might get a bit more appreciation because he's been brilliant since he came in. It's no surprise that they've been winning things when the two of them were in the team. So I think McAniff is one of those players. I think Graham Burke was probably just in there because we needed players like him, and the fact that they were Dublin based at the time. I think that could have been the reason why he had him in there. Not saying that Graham Burke's bad or anything like that. I just think that we have players in that position that are probably better than him right now. And Jack Byrne probably be one I'd include in that as well. But we were missing a lot of players for that last game against Bulgaria. And he wanted to bring in Michael Duffy as well. So I think Michael Duffy could be one you could be looking at in the future. He just signed a contract with Dundalk last night, so he will be playing with Dundalk this season coming. So I think, look, there's opportunities. Everybody will get an opportunity, and if COVID's still around, they'll get even more of an opportunity. It's up to them then when the opportunity gets called upon, whether they can prove either in training or in the games that they're ready. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with calling up League of Ireland players. I think if a player's in form in any league, they deserve a chance to be called up to the international side. I mean, McAniff quality. We've seen him so many times. You've mentioned now he's probably going to have more of a role because Jack Byrne is gone. And Mandrew will come in beside him as well now, more than likely, which is, I mean, 2 quality players there. A lot of the under-21s players are from the League of Ireland as well. And I mean, it's still international football. I know it's not the highest level, but it's still international football. There's good quality players there in the League of Ireland. So I definitely see, you mentioned the Rovers and Dundalk lads. They'll have more of a chance, obviously. But if someone else starts performing, you never know. You deserve an opportunity if you're playing well.
Danny Grant might be in line for a call up as well if he does well with Huddersfield as well. Great player, and was training. I think he might have his first team training today. Given the number 21, I think I saw on Twitter.
He'd probably get a chance there as well, because like Huddersfield haven't been overly great since they've gone down to that division. So I mean, and they're obviously looking for new lads to bring in as well. So I think he'd get a chance. I mean, the Championship is a good league to players trade in. So hopefully it goes well for him.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it about anybody's squad numbers in case people take me head off again on Twitter. David Salter says, Gab Bazuna was class against Sweden in the under-21s with the ball at his feet. When I saw Matala we're blessed with keepers. Surely one out of Kelleher, Bazunu, and Travers will come good. Hopefully they all come good. And yeah, I just hope they all come good. I think they're all good clubs that will help them develop. Obviously, Kelleher, number two, I just spoke at length about him. Bazunu kind of spoke at length as well. And Travers, I feel as though I think there's more to come from Travers. I think he has, like, Begovic has been in there because Bournemouth needs to try and get back up as soon as possible and they need experience. So I think that's why he's in there. But I think longer term, I think Travers will be the keeper there, and it'll be interesting to see whether he's given the opportunities there or whether he'll have to go somewhere else to get the opportunities. But, Mick McCarthy basically had him as his number two throughout the whole campaign. He was involved again with Stephen Kenny, but didn't play obviously. But he's been in Ireland squads and stuff like that, so he's getting a bit of experience that probably other goalkeepers around his age and development, maybe in England, haven't been. So he's obviously talented, and he's been capped. So we'll just have to wait and see. I thought he'd done well for Ireland. I thought he'd done well for Bournemouth as well against Spurs that time when he played as well. So let's just kind of see how they develop with Bazunu. He's been in and out with injuries recently, but more or less started when he's been fit and looks like a class keeper. Very young still, but City loaned him out and extended his contract at the same time, so they're obviously keen on getting him minutes and developing him. So that's good to see, and I think it's only positive. I'm sure there's more keepers. McGinty as well. Sligo, he played the last under-21 game against Iceland. I think he's a good keeper too in the League of Ireland. I think he's a really good keeper as well at Sligo.
Yeah, definitely, and he deserved to be involved. He was Sligo's, like, he kept Sligo in a lot of games, and they ended up getting into Europe this season, which is great for them. But yeah, like, these lads are talented. They wouldn't be over there if they weren't talented. So I mean, I think it's only a matter of time before they start, like, coming into squads more frequently, and then when Randolph eventually does go off, they'll be getting an opportunity as well.
Yeah, and that's what we want is more players getting opportunities and stuff like that. But the man walking says he agrees with Paul. Which one? Says think Grant should be called up for his performances if he also picks up form with Huddersfield. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the same as, like, Sean Maguire being informed for Preston in the Championship. I just using Preston as an example a lot because they're the first ones that come to my head with Irish players. Yeah, I think so. If he's playing well for Huddersfield, he's playing in the Championship is a very decent league. There's a lot of teams in that division who would challenge another the lower Premier League side. So, like, I have no issue with that. I think he should be called up if he's in form. I think any player should be called up if they're in form. You look at the amount of times they're not, like, I use one example. Jack Wilshere would play 2 games a season and he'd get into the England squad for a tournament. But then you have, like, the year Leicester won the league, Danny Drinkwater was brilliant for Leicester and he didn't get called up to the England squad for that Euros. So, like, there's a lot of that in international football, and I think it needs to be stamped out. Put the foreign players in because they deserve their opportunity because they're in form.
Yeah, no, I agree. He says, I think Grant should do well in Huddersfield and will get called up because of his form. For Bowes, he was untouchable at points. I think, yeah, you look at how strongly he finished the season, and it was kind of just after the break he started getting in, because before that, Mandreo had been in, and then the break came, and he was kind of frozen out a bit, and then it was Twardek and Grant on either wing, and the two of them were ripping teams apart together. And then obviously, so much so that Twardek got his move to Poland, and then Grant obviously got his move where he kind of just decided to leave Bowes because he wanted to challenge himself by going over and playing in the Championship, which, fair play to him. At least he wants to go over and try it out and see how he gets on. So I can only wish him well. Excuse me, and hope it goes well for him, because he's a lovely lad and he's a great player. So we only want the best for our Irish players, of course.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree.
Get your comments in anyway. Probably people are typing away there as we're doing stuff there. Any more comments? It's still 1-0, 72 minutes played on my watch anyway, coming into the 73rd minute now. I'm not really seeing too much from either side here. It's kind of, I know it's end to end, but there's no real major chances other than probably that handball, which could have been given, considering the handballs that have been given this season already.
Yeah, definitely. I think Southampton might be setting them for what they have. I mean, nothing wrong with that against the champions and how good Liverpool have been the last while. Liverpool are sort of pressing, but I think they're kind of missing that killer pass to get them really in. Salah hasn't really been involved at all. It's been mainly gone down towards Mane, and Firmino's been very quiet. A lot of the play does normally go through him. So I mean, they've got about maybe 20 minutes left, to find something. And if not, they're up against United next, and it's going to be a very tough game for them the way United are playing at the minute. Ooh, good
Yeah,
block again.
I would. I think I'm a little bit ahead of you, um, on the stream there. I would say that with Liverpool, like if they keep pressing the way they're going and so happen to get one little bounce or one little thing over the top and they beat the press, they could be in just because of the way Liverpool play at the moment. So it will be an interesting last 15, 16 minutes anyway. With that said, so if anyone
Definitely.
wants to get any comments in, we've spoken about a lot tonight. Just trying to see if there's anything we haven't talked about, or if there's any rumours or anything like that you'd like to speak about, then just throw in the comment there, whether you're watching on Facebook or whether you're watching on YouTube. Don't forget to give the video a like as well.
Dead Man Walking mentioned there how good Danny Grant was for Bowes. You think of the game against Shells at Tolka where he absolutely ripped them to sunder, got a hat trick. And that was just one of the many. The goal he got against Finn Harps, the first touch was fantastic and he took it so well. Was unlucky with Bowes, they just kind of fell away towards the end, but they were a very good side, very good to watch. And probably, well, they've lost a couple of players now, but you expect to see more from them again this season because they're just a very good side. And being linked with Kevin's as well, there's constantly players coming through. So fantastic for them, and hopefully it keeps going as well.
Not for Shell's sake, though.
Oh, not for Shell's sake. Like, obviously, the Shells are in another division now. They've got to focus on themselves more so than anything. Yeah, it was a tough year with Shells, all right. Tough year.
They break your heart, wouldn't they?
Mm.
No, but I think well, Grant came through the Leinster Senior League then through Bowes. So he's actually had a kind of different route, which is good to see because you want to see players coming through from all levels. But the fact that he came through the Leinster Senior League, similar enough to Daniel Kelly as well. He came through the Leinster Senior, went to Bray, and then got his chance at Bray. He was class for Bray. That second half of the season. Got to move to Bowes off the back of it. Had a good season with Bowes then, and then got to move to Dundalk off the back of that. So yeah, obviously when players are coming through like that, it's good to see from the amateur league. It looks like Shane Long is about to come on as a sub here now, and no, sorry, that was Liverpool. I think it might be someone else. I have a big ring light here, so it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
The screen as well. But Liverpool are on the attack here, and it's gone wide. I think it's a goal kick. It came off one of their players. Liam Kelly is in the comments there now. He says, good to see Conley back scoring again. Brighton is one of the best at developing young talent. Hopefully Malumbi will start the weekend. I think Malumbi's going to go out on loan, to be honest with you, Liam. So I think, yeah, that's how I feel. So that's the lad who came on. It was actually for Danny Ings. There is actually the lad who is basically taking Obafemi's spot. He has a mad long name that I can't pronounce. But
don't try. You usually offend them.
Usually offend who?
No, like sometimes it's gas. You try and say those names and you're completely wrong, and sometimes they get offended when you try and say it. Sometimes, not all the time.
See, for some reason, I thought Shane Long was wearing the away strip when he was coming on there for a minute because whoever was coming on for Liverpool looked like him for a split second. But it's Daniel Unlundulu is the player who came on for Danny Ings, and Tella came on for Gineppo. But Shane Long is still on the bench, and he had been warming up before that. So Southampton are defending for their lives. The thing I really like Southampton in terms of the energy and the way they play. They're exciting watch, because they get around all over the pitch, and they've good players who are well capable of scoring goals, and they're quick on the break, and every player has energy about them. And when they seem to bring in players, their players that come through seem to do quite well as well. They're on the counter attack here. Oh, he's taking them down. Shaqiri's taking him down. I don't think he's getting a yellow card.
Some Barnett and Shaqiri, like you already said, needs a haircut.
Yeah, I know it was never a last man tackle anyway, but he prevented the counter attack there because I think in Lundulu was through on goal there. Just any other comments there? But just back to the Connolly thing, I do hope that Connolly can continue scoring goals, but he needs to stop getting injuries. I know that's not his fault, and injuries will naturally happen, but I'd be worried that every time he seems to be getting a little bit of joy, he seems to pull up with a hamstring injury or some sort of injury, and then miss out on a couple of games, because obviously now is the time he needs to be getting the development and the minutes in and playing to establish himself as the main man at Brighton, which is obviously what we want him to be in the long run, like Maupoy, basically the way he is for them at the moment. But would like Connolly to be the main man. Malumbi needs to go out on loan, in my opinion. Have you anything to add on that, Paul, before I go to the next comment?
No, you've summed it up there. Like he needs to be more consistent, get a couple of games in a row, and just try get a bit of time where he's not going to get injured. And because he's well capable of scoring, he proves that. He proved that on the weekend. He was so dangerous, caused Wolves a lot of problems when he was on. So he just needs consistency in that sense. He needs 4 or 5 games of doing that, not just 1 or 2.
Yeah, just saying that Alexander Arnold has come off there. Milner's came on for him. David Salter has come in with a comment. He says, who will finish in the top 4, gents? Will Shane Long feature in March? So I think we'll go with the top 4 comment first.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Liverpool will end up winning the league in the end. I think United, I think City will come strong and they'll finish ahead of United in third. So City second, United third, and then I think Spurs will get fourth because I think they're the best of the rest, really, to be honest. Obviously, I want to say Arsenal, but they're down 11th at the minute. I know they're only 6 points off the top 4, but realistically, it doesn't look likely. So that'd be my top 4: Liverpool, City, United, and Spurs.
No Leicester or I mean, it's so close between so many of the teams. I'm just at the table up here in front of me, and you've got Liverpool 33 points, Manchester United on 33 points. If you're going by right now, I think that's if the score stays the same. But Man United are on 33. Then you've got Leicester 32 points. Then you have Spurs on 29 points with a game in hand. Then you have Man City with 2 games in hand, who, if they win them, or if they win those games, and then Liverpool stays the yard, they go ahead of Liverpool. Southampton 29 points as well. Everton 29 points with a game in hand on Southampton. If they stay the way things are, Everton will be level with Southampton, and then you're going down. It's Aston Villa 26 points, and you go down as far as 9th, and Chelsea and West Ham are all on 26 points, and Villa. Then you got Arsenal on 23 points, then Leeds, then Wolves on 22. So everyone's really, close in close comparison. Like, I mean, there's only 10 points between 13th and 3rd. So it could go any way. Like, it's actually mad if you look at if you think about it. Like, my prediction for top 4, it changes every week. Southampton are in here now. Oh, there's not. He done well to get back there, Robertson. I'm gonna say that Liverpool are gonna win the league. I don't want them to win the league. Obviously being an Everton fan, but they look like they probably will, I think. But they might be going through a bit of a blip now. So Man United might come strong. But I have to pick a top 4 here. It's difficult. I think Man United are in there. I think if Everton can add quality between now and then, they could be a dark horse. Because they've playing a lot of games with players with injury and stuff like that. But wishful thinking. I think Spurs will get in there. I think Mourinho has that nous to be able to finish in the top four, which is what Spurs brought him in for, obviously for trophies too, but I think mainly to have them in the Champions League. And then it's between. I haven't said City yet, have I?
No, I don't
No.
think so. No, just
So
say
but
Liverpool
then
and United, does it?
Liverpool and United. I'm not saying in any particular order. Oh, that's defender clears it off the line for Southampton.
Oh,
For Liverpool, sorry, from Southampton. He didn't hit it with enough pace anyway.
mm-mm.
Look, United and Liverpool could go either way in terms of the league, but every week it's Ole in, Ole out with Man United, so you just never know what the story is there. It's such a weird season. Look, if it goes down right to the end of the season and to the last day, that'd be cool because it was kind of run away with last year. So I'd like to see it be competitive. City may still come strong, and if they battered Chelsea there, and they didn't, didn't have a striker, so if they maybe add in January, they're in a good position now, especially if the result stays like this. And I'm not counting my chickens just yet because Liverpool always come strong in the dying moments. And to be fair, Liverpool have done really well in most games without probably a lot of their starters or their main players.
Yeah.
That lad said that Henderson was playing centre back and so on. So I know they've had the strikers and stuff like that. Jota's been out as well, so they've had a lot of injuries as well. To be fair to them. But top four, United, Liverpool, no particular order, and then Spurs and City, no particular order, but just the forward. Sorry to be such a long-winded answer, but I had to think about it. I had to really think about it. Connor Masterson is not getting in at QPR. Maybe time for a move. I think he was like that this time last year. He wasn't getting a run, and then he came in towards the end of the season, the back end of the season, and he done well. And I think maybe he needs a little bit of looking to get back in. I think he's class. Under 21 captain there recently enough. I think he's quality. Anything to add on Masterson, Paul?
Yeah, like we all thought he was going to get a decent run at it again. I mean, QPR haven't been overly great the last while as well, so maybe it's a bit of a surprise. But, again, as you said, he came in towards the end last year. It might be the same case this year. It's a new year. Just if he puts his head down and starts training harder, he'll get an opportunity because I know Warburton's managing him at the minute. So it's a tough league, and maybe he's had issues with fitness and stuff as well. You never really know. So like he'll definitely get a run because the games are going to start coming even faster now with postponed games having to be played, etc. So I'd say he'll get an opportunity and then maybe move off in the summer if it doesn't come about like that.
Yeah, well, maybe he does well in the cup game at the weekend, and you never know, he could get back in then,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, playing Fulham, aren't they? I think playing Fulham at home. So, they always change the squads around, so he definitely get an opportunity.
There's an interesting one. It's easy to look back in hindsight and say, yeah, Matt Doherty should have stayed at Wolves, when in reality we all wanted a player like Doherty to be one of our Irish players, to be playing at the best club they can be playing at. Maybe not you, Paul, being an Arsenal fan, you probably didn't want him to go to Spurs, but you probably wanted him to go to a team that are higher up in the league and allow him. Like, I was happy with him at Wolves. Like, I wasn't calling for him saying, oh, he definitely has to go. But there was an opportunity there to work with one of the best managers in the game, to have ever managed the game. Despite what people want to call him and say about him, I think Mourinho's still a great manager. And I watched that Spurs documentary, and I've seen stuff about Mourinho in the past, which kind of, he looks like a guy that you'd want to play for, especially if you're kind of Irish or that kind of mold, or if you're British in terms of Welsh, Scottish, English. He seems to get on really well with those types of players. You look at Lampard and John Terry and stuff like that. Despite what people say in the media about his relationship with them, he seemed to have a really good one with them. So I think with Doherty, I think he would have looked at maybe was the Spurs documentary out before then. He probably had a look at that. I think it was. He probably had a look at that, and he obviously got a feel of it as well from speaking to people. I'm sure he would have been talking to Nuno Espirito Santo, who was coached by Mourinho as well. So there was loads of different factors I'm sure came into it, and that was his reason for going there. There were obviously like there much bigger club than Wolves. And Wolves have only kind of came into being a pretty decent club, and I wouldn't even say a big club up until recently. They've had investment and stuff like that. But the way Wolves played has really suited them. It did really suit them. Whereas I think Spurs now, they have Aurier and they have him, and they can kind of pick and choose. So he's kind of being put in 1 minute, put out the next. So it's in hindsight, maybe him moving there wasn't a good move, but you never know till you go there. And that's what football is all about, taking risks and trying to get the rewards out of it. Then you're not guaranteed anything in football. I think any player will tell you that.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just
I
me
think.
though, Paul. You go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think Spurs are going to win the League Cup this year. I think with Mourinho, he's proven winner. He's done it everywhere he goes. I think Spurs have to win something this year. We say that every year with them. I think with Mourinho, they have their best chance. He's oh, what? No, never
No,
mind. Yeah, nothing.
no, Ash.
Um,
You'll probably hear me screaming for you.
yeah. I think they're going to get into top four. I think he's better off playing at that level. You look at Wolves now; they lost Jota, they lost him. That's a lot of their goals. Jimenez is out. They're down. They're down very low. They done well in Europe last year, but they were a strong unit. They had good players there. He was at Wolves for 10 years, was it? I mean, he doesn't it was time to move on. And I mean, when Spurs come calling in, you're not going to say no. So I think it was a good move. I think it's the right move, and I think they're going to do well this year. Spurs. I think they'll win the League Cup. I think they're the best team of the four left in it, and yeah, I think they'll win the League Cup. And Mourinho as manager is only positive, as you've mentioned. So yeah, I think it's a good move, and I think it's time to leave Wolves. He owes them nothing, so time to leave them.
Yeah. Well, I think as well as that though, they, um, Wolves. I think he felt he had taken Wolves as far as he could take them.
Hmm.
So you can see kind of why he left them, and he's given them 10 years of service, which you don't really get in this day and age with many teams as well. But I think Wolves, they do have a lot of quality players and stuff like that. But Spurs have the likes of Son and Harry Kane and these types of players. And if you're a top level player or a top level athlete, you want to play with even greater athletes. And he's gone and done it, and he's shown a bit of ambition. So Liam Kelly actually asked the same thing. He got sent off there though. Got 2 yellows. Was it over the
Hmm.
weekend? So he hasn't been enjoying a great start to life. Obviously, the Ireland stuff wasn't helping him as well. You remember he did the press conference and was visibly frustrated, which I like to see. Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah,
I think that hasn't helped his case as well. The fact that he's not playing in that same system that was getting the best out of him. Oh no, good defended. So there's only 2 minutes left of this game now, and it's still 1-0 to Southampton.
yeah. Uh, I mean, Southampton have been good here. They defended very well. Liverpool haven't really had enough. There's another crossing cleared away, but yeah, yeah. In terms of Doherty, I think he done all he could with Wolves, like you said, and obviously they don't play the same system. It's a very defensive system with Spurs as well at the minute. So I mean, it's all experience, and you just have to adapt.
Mm. Forces after making a save there now, so he's gone down on the ball there. So there's a minute and a half left of this game. David Salter says, haven't watched the Tottenham documentary yet. Do you think it's staged? There's a couple of great documentaries on Clough on YouTube. What are your top 3 football documentaries? That's tough, David. I don't think it's staged, no. I think it's quite good. I think Mourinho's quite open, as you can see with his Dele Alli. He kind of sets the stall early doors about kind of how he feels about him, and Ericsson. So I think
Mm,
that's very good by Mourinho. Bednarek's just had to put the ball out for a corner there now. So I don't think it's staged. In terms of
no.
documentaries, I've probably watched the Clough one. I've watched a couple. Actually watched one on Alex Ferguson last night, which I thought was really good. I watched one on Roy Keane as well. I couldn't give you a top 3 off the top of my head. Actually, well, I'll give you 2 though that I can think of. I watched recently. I thought brilliant. Howard's Way, Everton's documentary on kind of the 80s and all the glory days. And then Finding Jack Charlton is absolutely amazing, and it's a bit of a tough watch as well because of dementia and stuff like that. Over the bar, I think that's it now. I think we'll go out for a goal kick, and the game will be over. But I think The Finding Jack Charlton one, it shows like there's moments in the film where he kind of regains his memory, and it's just amazing how his face and everything about him lights back up, and you can see the Jack Charlton that we all remember. Because in large parts of it, he's kind of out of sorts. It's just like his body is there, but his mind is just not. So I can only give you two off the top of my head, David. Ask me that another day, and I'll give you probably three other ones. I've only given you two, I know, but I can only think of two. Is there any that you would recommend, Paul?
I watched one on Nottingham Forest winning the European Cup that time. I think it's called I Believe in Miracles. It was an interesting one on like that Nottingham Forest side, and obviously Klopp is a very interesting man, so like it's well worth a watch. I watched one about United when they got relegated. Too good to go down. It's a good interesting one about when they got relegated.
Full time.
Yeah, that's it. Bad result. Bad result.
Sorry, Paul. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No problem. Yeah, Too Good to Go Down. It's on BT as well, and yeah, they're a very good side, and sorry, not very good. It's a very good watch, and yeah, I can't actually think of another one off the top of my head, but a lot of them are on BT. There's another one called Football Outposts. You might have seen it before. It's on BT again, and it just goes to all the weird places, like the top of Scotland where someone plays, and they've got this small little ground, and they've got tons of fans, and it's like their weekly thing. And then he goes to like Kazakhstan and sees like Astana and stuff, and how it's like over there. So it's yeah, stuff like that, So they'd be in my top three anyway. But yeah, definitely have a look at them.
Yeah, I think this is a good one as well. Take the ball, pass the ball, Pep Guardiola. That's
Yeah.
on Sky as well. If you get a chance to watch the Howard's Way one, it's really good. If you want to know the history of Everton, not that you would or anything like that, but if you did, it's really good. There's obviously the players in the 80s, Neville Southall and Kevin Sheedy features in it as well, actually, if you want an Irish angle to it, and Peter Reid as well. He comes from Irish origin, obviously played for England though. So yeah, it's really, really good, and you should give that a watch. David says, will do. Cheers for the watch along, gents. Chat next time. So I think we'll leave it at that, Paul. If it didn't feel like it was nearly 2 hours, to be honest with you, it was a pleasure doing it with you, and thanks for jumping on. I'm sure we'll do more over the coming weeks and days.
Definitely, yeah. Looking forward to them.
Yeah, so if anyone's just joining or leave us, make sure you head over to manscaped.com. Don't forget to use the code IFFTV for 20% off if you want to follow myself or Paul. Handles are underneath our names or underneath our faces, if you rather. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks for everyone who commented. Anyone who is new, please subscribe and give the video a like. We'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves. Stay home as well.